Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everybody. Welcome to the National Assessment Week. Whether you are online and live with us today, or whether you're listening to or watching this recording at a later date, we would like to thank you for providing, just giving your time to be with us. This is the third day of National Assessment Week. My name is Sakile Camara, and I am here with my esteemed colleague, Jennifer Little. We are both at California State University, Northridge. And today we'd like to showcase for you how the SmartSheets platform can transform your assessment processes. But before we do so, I'd like to tell you a little bit about National Assessment Week. National Assessment Week is a full week of online workshops and or presentations that are planned by 13 people, regional representatives across the country and internationally. One of the things that we love doing is we love getting together and really planning assessment. National Assessment Week is sponsored by California State University, Northridge, at least the Office of Academic Assessment and Program Review at California State University, Northridge. And what it allows you to do is just to learn a little bit more about assessment. Assessment leaders all over the platform was designed to provide a safe space for assessment leaders like yourself to share your thoughts and to create a comprehensive narrative about assessment so that we have the same rhetorical view about assessment across the country. So if you want to learn more about National Assessment Week, just go to nationalassessmentweek.org. Jennifer's going to put a link there and become a member. The membership is free. It houses the largest number of assessment professionals in the country. And so if you're ever looking for someone to contact about assessment, that directory in National Assessment Week would be a really great place to start. So I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer to share a few housekeeping rules.
All right, wonderful. Well, hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. So today's session is going to be about an hour long. We're going to try to cut just a little shorter so that we have time for some questions at the end. But at any point, feel free, if you have any questions, to throw them up in the chat, and we'll try to answer them as best we can as we run through the session. And as you noticed when you joined, the session is being recorded. So that way it's going to be available for review on our National Assessment Week website a week from today, just to make sure that we keep it as informative and as interactive as possible. So feel free to jump in. So today's session, we're going to cover a couple of key topics. First, we're going to give you a glimpse of CSUN's assessment infrastructure, first of all. And then we're going to kind of dive a little bit into the differences between procedures versus process, and kind of separating those, but linking them together. And then we're going to explore how SmartSheet works as a project management tool in the assessment practice, because it's not really designed for assessment, but we've kind of molded it to work for us in the assessment practices. And then we'll look at some of the advantages as well as disadvantages of using SmartSheets in the assessment process. I'm going to throw it back to Sakile for the next one.
Okay, excellent. Jennifer, if you'll watch that, people are still coming in. So if you'll watch and let folks know, let them in, that'd be great. Thank you so much. So the next slide is about CSUN's assessment process. We use process and procedures, and I think you'll understand what this means for us a little bit later on. It's really essential to understand assessment as process, both process and procedure. The process refers to this ongoing practice that we have. It's an ongoing cycle of data collection, of data analysis, and even decision making. The image to the left is an example of our process. I think many of you have probably seen this sort of model before. It's kind of the what we're supposed to do. And on some college campuses, it has 4 phases. On others, it has 6 phases or even 5. And we use the theory of change as our theoretical foundation. To the right, you'll see another model, and that second model provides you with a few they're not performance indicators. It kind of gives you a glimpse into our process, kind of telling you who does what on our campus. And it involves a series of steps. So what those statements outside of the model does is just provides you gives you a good little glimpse into our processes and procedures. It's about how we do assessment. So the one on the left is what we do, and then the one on the right is about how we do it. And I think that the majority of you on this call will note that it's rare that we get any sort of procedures to come with assessment. You just throw you out there with a boat, and oftentimes you don't have a paddle. And so faculty don't understand this. But in our office, it's important for us to provide procedures to this process. So that's why we say it's processual and it's procedural. So I think there is a really great example. It's of seeing how assessment is a process versus a procedure. I'm going to use the Great British Baking Show. If you've ever seen the Great British Baking Show, it's a really great example of assessment as process and procedures, and I'm going to show you how. You know that the show has specific challenges, and it's a part of a series of challenges, but the challenge that I'm going to focus on is the technical challenge. And in the technical challenge, you have contestants, and these contestants are given usually a sheet of paper with a recipe for a dish, but it has limited instructions. Now, that sounds a lot alike assessment. They are usually not given the details, but they are provided with all of the ingredients. So we've been given the ingredients. Go back to the model that I shared with you before. That model that I shared with you earlier on the left side, that's our process. Those are the ingredients. But when you look at the model on the right, it is much more representative of the recipe. And the recipe has the things that you need to do, the various steps that you need to do or follow to complete any assessment. So again, the recipe represents those procedures. So the challenge in the Great British Baking Show, and I'm writing a paper about this, so I can't wait until I finish it. The knowledge, the skills, and the ability is about following instructions precisely. That's what they're really trying to get to. And so it's really great for the show, but it's not so great for assessment. So at CSUN, we combine both. We use process and procedures to ensure that our assessment is thorough and to ensure that it is systematic and even streamlined. So I think it's important for us next to understand, now that you know our process, how we approach process and procedure in assessment, it's really important to kind of understand assess our assessment infrastructure before we talk about SmartSheets, because SmartSheet is the platform that actually supports those procedures. So at CSUN, we rely heavily on our shared responsibility model. Shared responsibility infrastructure ensures that we have effective assessment, that everybody on our campus is involved in the assessment process, from faculty, students and faculty, all the way up to information technology, faculty development, and institutional research. So we involve all of these players in our process to ensure that we get the bang for our buck. So we are able to use SmartSheets to add those tasks and those procedures within it so that we can streamline communication, we can improve and even track the tasks that our college assessment leads will follow, and we can also enhance accountability across those assessment efforts. Oftentimes, sometimes faculty don't get the chance to do the things that they're supposed to do, with assessment leads or assessment liaisons, they're often behind. And we're trying to track at what point do you get behind so that we can start to pivot. And so here's another part of that infrastructure. You heard me refer to college assessment leads. We fondly call them CALs. And these are to the left, you'll see that there are a list of things that they do. They review the documents, the planning documents for the departments in their college. That includes the alignment maps, and it also includes the strategic plans, the 5-year strategic plans, so that they can follow the desires of the department. We have kickoff meetings at the beginning of the year. They contact either the dean's office, they go in and talk to the chairs, or they go in and talk to departments in their department meetings to ensure that they understand what institutional learning outcomes, and so that they can understand what program learning outcomes now the departments want to assess. Then they engage in another process of creating a course sampling plan. And that course sampling plan is designed, is, built in SmartSheets, and Jennifer will show you some of that. It's built into our SmartSheets platform, and it is communicated to departments. We also have an opportunity to collaborate with departments. So this is in consultation. That course sampling plan is in consultation with the department chairs or their designee. Then it is confirmed by the dean and the associate deans of the college. So we make sure that we get approval from those department chairs as well as the deans before we move forward. And then we start to onboard faculty. When we onboard faculty, that may be a series of meetings or workshops, 30 minutes usually, just to show them how to import those ILOs into their Canvas shells so that they can collect and connect it to an assignment. Once those ILOs are imported in, they're imported in as a populated rubric. It's a very simplified rubric from 0 to 4, 0 meaning no evidence at all. So we use that integer 0 all the way to 4, which represents mastery. And they go through a norming process on that rubric. They have a conversation about it with the CALs, and then they score those outcomes. And we do this equitably from selecting courses all the way from lower division all the way up to the graduate courses. This allows us to incorporate and integrate formative assessment as well as summative assessment. Most of you may know and have been engaged in the process where you assess at the end. Well, assessing at the end doesn't allow faculty members to pivot, right, during the class to identify who's achieving those institutional learning outcomes or program learning outcomes and who's not. So it's really difficult to tell students, well, maybe you'll get it again next year, knowing goodness well that they will never take this course again unless they failed it. So we've missed a really grand opportunity to do this. So we've incorporated formative assessment, which is why we have our process and our intervention called IROCA. And IROCA stands for Instructors Reporting on Classroom Assessment. This allows us to track academic performance across courses as well as within courses, and it allows us an opportunity to close the loop because faculty are engaged in this process every 4 to 5 years. So once they assess, we hope to come back and assess the same course with the same faculty, hoping that they've made some sort of change or intervention, and now we can check to see whether or not that intervention has actually made a difference. And so this is CSUN's infrastructure. We call it institutional led because we ensure that the same practice is operating within every department. Before we had 50 departments assessing 50 different ways. And so there was no way to create a comprehensive narrative about how our students were performing across these different departments, and now we have a structure in place where we can do a great deal of that. So I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer to talk about SmartSheets. Now, this is how SmartSheets operates for us.
All right. And before I go on to my slide, Joanne said she loved your analogy of your Great British Baking Show because it's totally true, right? There's a gazillion different ways to be able to create that same outcome, and then but to try and streamline it a little bit across a campus of 40,000 students. I can't even tell you how many faculty we have. So it is a huge project for us. And Bina had asked also, is there compensation or expectation for CALs to be compensated for their work? And I can say there is at the university, at least at Cal State Northridge, we do have some release time, release from one class, expectation to be able to perform this work. Although with California's budget crisis, who knows what's going to happen going
You
forward.
can add in that it's the dean office also chimes in, so they get 3 units of reassigned time in the fall and 3 units of reassigned time in the spring. So we're lucky.
Yeah, very lucky. Hopefully that can continue going forth. But when I'm looking at this now from the Cal side, so that might have seemed like a lot. What our infrastructure is at CSUN, like you're doing this, a gazillion things. Now, what am I supposed to do as a Cal? Where do I start? How do we get them trained? How do we make sure everybody is doing what they're supposed to? Where are we at? So from a Cal's perspective, using SMARTSHEETs is going to help us to determine where we're supposed to be and what my expectations are at the beginning of the semester, middle, and at the end. So as I log into SMARTSHEETs here, you can see SMARTSHEETs, I only have IROCA, and we'll click on IROCA, and that's our instructors reporting on classroom assessment. And this is what I need to do. I'm not reporting on the assessment, but I need to get all of my faculty in my college up to speed. So when I go to log in over on the left-hand side of SMARTSHEETs, we have it set up in a way where you have your task list, all the things that you need to do, your courses, everything is kind of specialized on the left. And then right in the center, you can see these are all the tasks that I need to complete. So once I've completed my task that's been assigned to me, it will turn green. As you see at the top line, it says Cal agreement. So if I've signed my Cal agreement, then you can see it over on the right-hand side. There's my PDF where I have signed my Cal agreement, so I understand the expectations from me for my job as a Cal. The next thing that's popping up, all right, I need to do kickoff meetings. And on the actual website, if you click on the kickoff meeting, it will give us a little description of what's expected for a kickoff meeting. Kickoff meeting is where it's going to ask me to meet with deans, department chairs, and faculty to get us ready for what is upcoming for this semester. So if I've started to schedule that, or I've sent an email, I'm going to go ahead and click start or in process. There's going to be a little check off there. So we have a little in process button, and then I can kind of move on to the next thing. And the next thing will say sampling plan. So the sampling plan preparation, if I click on that sampling plan, this sheet pops up. And so this particular year, we don't, I should say, we don't always assess all of our institutional learning outcomes every year. We pick and choose 2 every year, and we move forth. And it's hard to say if I'm just back here, just one faculty member in this very large college, which courses align with our institutional learning outcomes, right? Different courses might align with our institutional learning outcome number 1, which is our spoken communication. And there might be some courses that don't have any spoken communication, but they have written communication. And some have critical thinking, some have quantitative reasoning. And as a college assessment lead, that's not my job to know exactly what courses align with their institutional learning outcome. The department on the back end has already mapped that out for us. The department has already said CTVA, our Cinema and Television Arts 100 course, for example, is going to be aligned with spoken communication and critical thinking. They've done that on the back end. Then their CTVA 101 may align with written communication, and their CTVA 200 might align with another global engagement. they all align differently. So if I'm going to assess new ILOs each year, it's going to be too difficult for me as a Cal to understand all those gazillion classes. So the department's done that on that back end. So when I go into SMARTSheets and we are assessing ILO number 1 this year, for example, it has a list of all the classes for me so that I am not going through all those maps and manually trying to figure out what course is aligned with which institutional learning outcome. So that's wonderful. Now I know that I need to contact teachers for CTVA 100, CTVA or Art 110, Communication Studies 151, because those have all been identified already from the department on the back end as aligning for the ILO 1. So I can choose all the classes that I want to reach out for, and that is my sampling plan. So we go into doing that, and I go in and I click them all. I'm going to, on the sampling plan here, it's a little on the smaller side, but what it will say, we have our college up at the top and the courses and the details. And it's already actually not just aligned with the department's map, curriculum map and ILO maps, but it's also aligned with our schedule of classes. So if I do choose CTVA 100, it's linked already to my schedule of classes. So it automatically knows to identify and contact all the CTVA 100 instructors. If I choose Art 110, then it's going to contact all of our Art 110 instructors. I'm not having to go through this manual process, which a few years ago before SmartSheets, if I saw CTVA 100 was aligned, I had to go to the schedule of classes. I looked at each instructor's name and I had to email each one individually. But now through SmartSheets, when I just click CTVA 100, which the department's already told me on the back end that's aligned with ILO 1, it's going to automatically know to email all of those instructors for CTVA 100. Art 100, it's going to email all of those instructors. So it was a lot of work maybe on the back end to get those alignment maps in process and in play and correctly aligned. But now as a Cal, I can go through and just click the courses automatically assigned to the instructor, and then I can email all at once. So the manual labor is not as intense as it was before from my end as a Cal. So once that is started or done, again, I would just click it and start or complete it, and it moves on to the next item. So then like the next item would be to sample, review, and share, and now to onboard faculty. Okay, so what does that mean? And when we click onboard faculty, it'll give me instructions on what I need to be doing to onboard the faculty into this IROCA process. And it's got email samples already there for us so that we can just kind of copy paste that into our message board to be able to send that out.
Now, this is our approval process set up in SmartSheets. Again, we had a former graduate student who worked on this process, who added all of our schedule of courses in the back end so that it could read and pull that data for us. Our master alignment map was also living in the back end, so it would pull in that data for us. So all of that information doesn't just show up in SmartSheets. There's something that happens in the back end that allows us to set up and see the kinds of things that we need to see. Well, one of the forms on SmartSheet is an approval form. You can actually set it up so that you can get full approval. This is one way, and another way that SmartSheet excels for us. The platform ensures that there's a necessary approval obtained by the people that need to see it. So you can send this over to the department chairs, like I mentioned earlier, or you can send it to the dean and the associate dean. We had them to just identify whether or not they approved, if they want something updated. If they approved it, it's fine. It comes back to us. We can see it in the dashboard that it has been approved, and the Cal can move on to the next thing. or they may request that something needs to be updated, and then they will leave notes, and the CAL could come back and update and do that work and then resubmit again. So you can see how SmartSheets really worked well with us following a procedure to ensure that all of our steps were completed by a specific time. We set up deadlines for all of this. Notifications would go out to the CALs. Notifications go out to the faculty who are participating in the assessment process to identify whether or not they've completed the work that they've done. So this is one of our dashboards for a college assessment lead. If you are a college assessment lead and you're following this process, I can see, as the director or the faculty affiliate could see on their dashboard as well, all of the tasks that have been completed and the status. So I can see on my end that for this particular person, that one item had been completed and that some of the others hadn't been started. This will give me the opportunity to now reach out to my college assessment leads and figure out what's happening. Hey, you're behind. What's going on here? But if they're too late, what happens is over here in the at-risk column, that little flag there will turn red. So they can see it, and I can also see it. This is my dash. This would be the CAL's dashboard. The CAL can also see for the fall status how many courses were selected, because when they are selecting that course sample, it's identifying the number of courses that have been selected, the number of instructors that have been assessed, and the number of students. Because remember, our schedule of courses lives in the back end of this, and our schedule of courses identify the number of students enrolled in the course. So it will pull that information, and then it would also let us know throughout the semester who's scored, because again, there's a notification that goes out, an automated notification that goes out to the faculty asking them where they are in the process. Here to the right, I can now see all the faculty by name. And these are made up faculty, by the way, and a made up course. And then I could see, if I could toggle to the right, but this is a screenshot, they can identify where they are in the process. And when they identify where they are in the process, this is what I, as a CAL, would see. I see the name of the person, and they can tell me whether or not they have scored in Canvas, that their outcomes have been added to Canvas, or that, Canvas scoring, assignments have been scored in Canvas, or whether or not they need support. If they need support, and these are what we identified as the things that we needed to know from faculty, the college assessment leads will reach out to that faculty member to see exactly what it is that they need support with. Maybe, it could be anything from, I forgot about how to import the ILOs in. I need another workshop to show me how to do it. But we also have guidelines. We also have videos that we send so that they have access to all of that information as well. Now, I know that you've seen all of this stuff, and we want to talk about now the advantages and some of the disadvantages of working with SmartSheets. So go ahead, Jenny, this is on you.
From my end, our advantage. The one nice thing is now we have a standardized kind of process. So we knew what the process was, but where, as the semester goes, unless someone's emailing me every week to say, here's where we should be, you're kind of like, what am I supposed to be doing? So by having the SmartSheets there, we kind of know what the process is and what's coming next without being maybe too overwhelming. We got the next steps, and each of those steps provides us with some instructions and some guidelines. So it's able to kind of keep everybody on track. And again, you're trying to also keep everybody on track across these 8 colleges, all 8 assessment leads. So that was really nice for that. It reminded me, did I do this? Did I start it? Oh yeah. And then you can click those things, and also when a deadline is, because if I keep seeing emails just randomly coming and I see something's due soon, but I might not have started the other one that was due, you kind of just maybe drop the ball altogether. Right? Because you've already missed the first deadline. How are we going to make the second one? And then you have to go back. And where was that again? Everything's just all nicely organized into one space. And then it was nice because we had emails that would be generated and say, hey, by the way, you have an at-risk task. And like Sakile said, there was a little flag next to it, and it's a screenshot, and it says, you have not completed this. This is now April 9th, and it's not done, and here's your little red flag. And that way it would also trigger a reminder to go back and check and see what I need to be doing. You could set those emails up to come more frequently, and you can set them up to come once a month on occasion, because we all know there's a balance of getting too many emails and not enough emails along the way. JD wrote, I just want to look here. You have reached, oh, never mind. It's just that we reached the limit for your plan. Recording of our meeting minutes is, oh, I think it's a spam.
Go ahead with challenges.
Okay, good. But challenges, over back on the challenge side of it, it lacks a little bit of a human touch because it's very Excel driven. So when I do get those emails that says you're at risk, or hey, here's the next task, make sure do you need any help, or there anything like that? They are pre-made emails that we made either last semester or maybe earlier in the semester at the beginning, and it comes from SMARTSHEET. So when I get the emails, I'm like, oh, this is just a computer. I don't know if there's anyone really behind it, really noticing it. So it kind of lacks a little bit of the human touch when a SMARTSHEET email comes to me, although it does look very professional, but it is a little generic for most. These SMARTSHEETs, I'm just going to say, basically, we had a little bit of a changeover because we do use graduate assistants, and it is towards the end of the semester. And they did a lot of that work on their end because they were a little more tech savvy. So when there's this changeover and we're trying to take over and learn, or they're trying to train someone else, it is not as an intuitive program as one would like, at least I would like. So it could feel a little overwhelming. It's maybe not more overwhelming than just addressing Excel for the first time, and it has the same kind of features, but it might be a little much. And you do have a learning curve with it. You have to maybe send these emails out as testers to yourself first, because a few of the emails that I did get, it was the same message 5 or 6 times running. So we had to go back in and figure that out. Because again, it's not the most intuitive. And one of the big things is it wasn't designed for assessment. So it took hours upon hours upon hours of our grad assistants to get everything put in. It took hours to figure out when there's an error. It took hours why we couldn't see what we wanted to see. It did have a huge learning curve, especially if you're not the most tech savvy of a professional. You know, we just like it to work perfect for us right off the beginning. And a little bit of an over reliance on a checklist. Do I do this? Okay, did it. So we're kind of missing a little bit of that human touch there as well. Those were some of the challenges with SMARTSHEET coming from the Cal, but overall, I would rather have those few challenges on the Cal side than to feel a little lost in what I'm supposed to do from a Cal standpoint.
So that's the end of our presentation. We're now open for questions. I would just like to say that the first time that I saw SMARTSHEETs was a year ago when a group from Georgia did a presentation for National Assessment Week, and they were talking about their program review process and how they did that within SMARTSHEETs. And so I thought, you know, wow, this would really be great if we could identify and add the tasks that we have for our college assessment leads to follow, so that, we could remove the emails. We could automate some of this work. We would remove the amount of time that it took for us to check in with the cows, to meet with the cows. We could give some of that time back to ourselves to do the assessment work, as well as, giving the cow a little bit more time. So the machine itself, once it's set up and automated, it will do that work for you. And that's one of the things that I really love about SmartSheets. I work with designing my own software solutions, and I found it to be very, very tough to learn. So the graduate students had experience with coding, and so they could do a few more things that naturally I couldn't do. I'm a communication studies major. I am not a technology person, although I do design software solutions, but I don't code. So it was really interesting that they could really provide what it is that we do in our procedure and our process within SmartSheets. And we just loved it. I loved it because it gave me an opportunity to see things in real time, if it was working the way in which we needed to. But if you have questions, please drop those questions in chat. And we do have a survey for you. Make sure that you fill out that survey and let us know how we're doing, so that we can improve next year's assessment programming. So we have a question from Joanne, said, did you integrate Canvas information to feed into SmartSheet automatically? We did. Well, we didn't integrate Canvas. What we did is we took our reports from Canvas regarding when faculty completed their assessment. Somehow our graduate student was able to add that information. There is a way to integrate it and to link it so that it's automated, but we didn't figure that out before, they left. And but we were able to upload and get data about who completed those assignments for the next year. So on our sheet, the next year when faculty came in, they could see the faculty who had already participated, so they didn't go back to those faculty members. They could select a different faculty member. And we could also see who completed their assessments before the deadline for assessments were due. But that took a little bit more, work. And you asked the second question, are faculty required to answer the questions such as outcomes added to Canvas? Yes. They are required to answer those questions. I mean, if they provide us with the information, I don't know, requirement, is it mandatory? No, it's not like, well, they will keep getting that notification over and over again until they respond. But we would like to know if they've actually added it, because if they've added it, we know that they're at least close to it. We're trying to figure out where they are in the process so we can kind of nudge them along the way. Any other questions or thoughts about our process? You can unmute, or you can throw your question into the chat and we'll read it and try to respond as best we can. So the next question comes from Melody. So do you incorporate the closing the loop changes made piece in SmartSheets as well? We do not. We haven't figured that one out yet. The only portion of closing the loop is being able to at least track faculty who've participated before so that we can reach out to them. SmartSheets is an automation of some aspects, but not all aspects. I'm pretty sure there is probably a way to do that, but we got started last year. So we've been a year into, this is the second semester, this is about a year into using SmartSheets. So we still have time to work this through. Does it integrate with D2L? I'm not sure that it does. I've not seen I don't know, we don't use D2L on our campus or Brightspace. I've not seen that on the SmartSheets website. I didn't see that integration. There were some things that we just didn't get, like when you have Adobe Sign, they don't do Adobe Sign. They do a different kind of sign form. But there are some things that they don't integrate with yet, but they are under new management. So that might be an opportunity. But in some ways, it was really a very, open and flexible, but it wasn't necessarily the most, like we said, it wasn't the most intuitive. I love learning new technology, but after my second meeting, it was just over my head because it used a lot of terminology or acronyms that I just wasn't familiar with. And I hadn't read through the process because we had technicians and assistants to do that work for us. So if you are non-technical, it might not be the program for you. You have to go through. It took them months to really learn it, and so it's just not an over the night sort of thing. Do I believe that I could learn it? Absolutely. We've lost our graduate students, so now we're working with folks on our campus. There are about 40 people on our campus that actually use SmartSheets. So they are willing to work with us and get us up to par, but we know it's going to take time to develop. But everything that we have is developed, but because there's so many sheets involved in our assessment process, like our master alignment map and the SOC, it gets a little complicated. And Mary's asked, are there any SmartSheet tutorials you would recommend for training? I was going to say all of them. You're going to have to do every last one of them. They usually do some live training sessions. Once you come on board, they will communicate with you quite a bit about the kinds of trainings that they have. And SmartSheets is owned by our chancellor's office. And so they offer quite a bit of tutorials as well. But they have a load of tutorials that you can just go online and listen to. But it's not like this real interactive sort of thing. You're not really asking questions. So if you have a systems administrator, that would be the person that you could really work with. I didn't feel like I could ask questions really. It was just let us show you, and you're off on your own. But that was my perception. A person who is probably an engineer or computer scientist would have probably caught on to that much quicker than I. But thank you for that question. It's
from our end as a cow, seeing it from the email side, that was pretty intuitive. Like, okay, click, and I need to go, and it was all pretty much there. But then when there was oopsies, like, why is that email coming 5 times? Why is it? Am I getting this when I shouldn't have gotten this? Those kind of things required a little bit more investigation, and had to rely heavily on our experts, our grad student experts, to help fix those.
But it's a really great tool. We used it for project management. It works like a project management tool, and it just kind of went a little bit above and beyond. I mean, you could use Monday, but Monday is not going to allow you to add in your SOC. It's not going to allow you to add in your alignment map. So it really wasn't for assessment, but we built and designed it so that it would fit our assessment processes, just to ensure that our college assessment leads are reporting back, and that we understand how long does it take to complete a particular task. That was part of it as well. That was the information that I needed to know. How long does it take for you to do a kickoff meeting? There are some departments that had large, had 6 departments, and others had 12. Some departments had 4. So it didn't take them that long. So we were trying to figure out across campus, when we're doing this work, how long would it take for a college assessment lead to do all of the tasks needed and required to ensure that by December, assessments have been scored and assessments have been completed. So those are the things that we really wanted to understand, and SmartSheets allowed us to do that.
Sakile, Michelle wrote, is SmartSheet owned by the chancellor's office, or do they have a license, like a system-wide license?
They have a system-wide license. And it was $500 per license, and it's gone up, they believe, to $550. Just got an email the other day for that license. So yeah, they have a license for it, and it was a learning curve for us, and it still is a learning curve. I'm willing to learn it, but I could probably design my own. That's what I'm thinking now. I could probably design this and get everything that I need, and it just all works in the back end. IROCA, I'm writing about IROCA now and trying to let people understand how it actually works as an initiative on a college campus, and how we created this logic model to design and to develop it to ensure that it would become this streamlined process. And I believe that a faculty on our campus really appreciate that it's streamlined, that they no longer have to wonder about what should be done next, second, or third.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. That's perfect. That answers Amanda's question too, which are we using a business plan pricing? And you said it was about $550, that's an annual cost, Sakile?
Well, yes, an annual cost for us. And I mean, it's for each license. Now we have 2 licenses on our campus, and our office holds one of them, and then the institutional research holds the other license and accounts. And for each person that came in, so we were actually happy that in using SMARTSHEET, that we didn't have to have a license for every faculty member. They were just only participating and letting us know how they would, report out for the most part. But I don't, one of the beautiful things about this is being a director that, we have coordinators and financial analysts, and I don't have to worry about all of those things. And so we just say, hey, this is what we want, and they handle the majority of it. But we didn't feel like we needed more than 2 licenses for our campus. But we do note that there are multiple licenses on our campus with various departments.
Marissa asked too, if we were using a different assessment software in the past, and how does it compare, and what did that transition look like?
We were not using, everything was manual. Our university attempted at one point to develop its own assessment product, this homegrown product, and it just didn't get off the ground. It was a big bust. And I actually designed my own software solution doing this work. My department used it. We did pretty well. I wasn't trying to make money off of it. They used it to collect data, to do all of those kinds of things. But no, we didn't have anything on this campus. When we realized that Canvas will allow us to add in our program learning outcomes and our institutional learning outcomes, we just decided to use what we already had to do that. There's a lot of change that's happening on our campus. We have a new provost, we have a new associate provost, and they are really engaged in our assessment process, and they are committed to ensuring that it is working. And I would not be surprised within the next year or so that we would have an assessment solution that we are using. Because the first thing that she asked is, how are you managing your outcomes? We were like, well, an Excel sheet. So that's what we're using, right now. There's a lot of red tape when it comes to using vendors and using various products on this campus. It has to go through a full process. Friday, we will be National Assessment Week. That Friday is the day that we have vendors talking about their assessment products. And it's the first that we've ever allowed that to happen in the 3 years that we've been doing it. And so it seems to be getting really good traction. So maybe that's an opportunity to figure out what's being offered out there in the world. But no, thank you for asking that question. But we can't compare it because we weren't using, much of anything else. But I can compare it to Monday and some of the other products that are out there that are project management specific. This one is like Excel on steroids, and you can do a whole lot more. Although Monday and a lot of other project management tools have these beautiful graphs related to what tasks get completed. But when it comes to your assessment process, a SMARTSHEET will allow you to kind of modify it to meet the kinds of requirements that you need for your own assessment process. Those programs don't do that. Monday won't allow you to do that. You can put your task in, but you can't see all of the other stuff that's needed. Can you create a course plan in Monday? No. Or any of the other project management products that are out there? No. Can you set up probably some form that approval process with your documents attached to it? You can attach documents to some of those things like Slack and a couple of other things, but no, it doesn't allow you to necessarily function in the way that we function with ours on this campus. So that's why I liked SMARTSheets for that specifically. All right. Well, folks, we're at the end. Thank you so much for attending, and we hope to see you next year at National Assessment Week. Don't forget to go to the National Assessment Week website and become a member if you're not already, and to see what's happening on National Assessment Week. It works when you work it. So if you can go in and start creating whatever it is you need, you can post jobs for free. You can do a whole lot on that website. You can chat, you can see all kinds of resources that are available to you. So please take the time to do that. We have another question from Dean. Dean Martin. Any relationship to the Dean Martin? Just joking. I am at a campus that has previously, prior to my arrival, used several different products, and they have elected to go back to doing using spreadsheets. Oh my God. Can you make templates being sent out for yearly reports? We've not tested that yet in SMARTSheets, and it might be quite possible. I think you probably want to talk to someone at SMARTSheets because it's really varied. There's a lot that you can do, and we haven't tested the waters with it yet to create these reports that will go out. I've not seen that yet. I'm pretty sure that there's probably something there. I can't see that that not being an option there. But I would really talk to the people at SMARTSheets because it's shifted and we don't know what changes have been made to the application itself. We don't know if it's enhanced or if it's, remaining the same. But we've just gotten started with a SMARTSheet. So yeah, we've just nudged at it a bit. We don't know all the capabilities and the functionalities of it. But great question. Thank you, Dean. Yeah, I would definitely reach out and see what's happening. Any other questions? Well, we have the 7 minutes left. I'm going to stop recording.